All right, welcome to the Coyote Radio Show and Podcast. We got a great guest today. Casper Allen's with us. I've been wanting to have him on for a while now, and great artist, great singer-songwriter. Definitely doing his own thing. Very unique sound. Blends a bunch of different genres with blues and like I said, just great storyteller all around. But he's been in and out of the music game for a little bit, taking care of some business, personal issues. He shares all that on here. And what he's up to now, he's dropping a lot of music this year. He's working on a podcast with Anthony from Gyms on VHS, which is amazing. I'm happy that they're doing that. It sounds fascinating. Talk about that. And then, of course, we talk about a bunch of random bullshit because, that's what you do on podcasts. We talk about rap music and this, that, and the other. And I don't even remember what we all talked about, but it was fun. Casper's a good dude. I like him, and I'm glad he's doing much better now and doing the right thing by his family, and thrilled to have him on. Before we talk to him, though, we got to give it up to the sponsors. Duke's Indy, best honky tonk in the Midwest, guarantee it, or maybe even in the country. I don't know. I haven't been to all of them, but I think it's the greatest, hands down. Best fried chicken, I guarantee that. If you haven't been to a show there, check it out. They got a website if you want to see who's coming, dukesindy.com. And we have the Bard Distillery with us. Great, great classic Bard Distillery bourbon. If you're drinking bourbon, it's got to be from Kentucky. I keep saying that every show because it's true. I got a nice stash of it back here behind me. But you can order that at Duke's too. Cinder and Smoke makes a great old-fashioned cocktail. So, what else do we need to mention? We got to talk about this festival coming up this summer, August 16th and 17th. We got Picking in the Backwoods. It's 20 bands, but now that it has already changed. Jason Day West is back to the lineup, so that's 21. Then we're opening up a little side second stage with probably another 10 or so acts. So a lot of music in 2 days, free camping, free parking. Just bring your own booze. Just come have a good time. Bring your own cooler, lawn chair. Super, super limited ticket sales. This isn't 20,000 people all jammed in one area. This is way, way tiny, tiny. This is probably the most intimate festival with this caliber of talent coming in one area. So well under 1,000 tickets only. This is a very special event. I can't stress that enough. But pickinginthebackwoods.com if you want some details on that. And if you jump on social media right now, we're running a deal till probably, I think it's May 15th, if I can remember. But we made a post there, free 4 tickets free just by doing, the share and tell your friends and that sort of thing. If you do those few things that post asks for, you get free 4 tickets and a poster to the show. So check it out. I think that's it. Let's go talk to my buddy Casper. All right, special guest today, Casper Allen. Thanks for being on, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. What's up, man?
Yeah.
Are we gonna act like we haven't been talking for an hour?
Yeah, it's like, do we say that we've been talking for an hour? Or no, it hasn't been an hour. It's been like a half hour.
Let's just reenact the whole conversation. We'll start.
Yes. But thanks for being on. I love your music. I think you're a hell of a writer. You got a story, and I think a lot of people can, listen to your music and feel something. And that's the hardest thing for artists, I think. That's the biggest thing in music, is to make someone actually feel something.
Well, thank you. That's the goal, right? At least for me. I know it's probably not for everyone. I know it's not for everyone, but yeah, I definitely I don't see the point of singing or writing for other reasons.
Yeah. I can't do it, so maybe that's why I appreciate it so much. I just suck at it so bad that I don't even try. I just listen to other people.
At writing?
And all of it.
Oh, it's just rinse and repeat, man. It's just, I think I'm lucky I started trying really young because it when you're like a kid, you're stupid enough to think that that people need to hear what you have to say, and then you do enough horrible, awful shit. Eventually, you get something decent.
Right. So,
Well,
man,
maybe not actually from my recent Instagram explorations and TikTok explorations. There's some folks out there doing it that seem like they've been doing it a while. It's not going so well.
yeah, there's a lot of that for sure.
Yeah, there's some arrogance involved in doing this in general to begin with. You kind of have to delude yourself into believing that you have something worth saying or listening to. I still sometimes think I might be delusional.
That's fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, you should see this book right here is full of just awful ideas.
Ideas are just writings in general. They're just
Some of them are pretty awful, but yeah, writings in general. I have to go through and edit quite a bit on a daily basis. Like that's shit. I wrote a horrible song this morning and was convinced till like noon it was going to be great. And then I got home, I was scribbling and singing it in the car while I was driving, and then got home and came to the conclusion that it was horrible.
oh man. Didn't give it that long. Give it at
Oh no,
least a
it's
couple
bad.
days.
It's bad. I gave it enough time already. I had to let it go.
Oh, damn.
I won't even try to lay the premise on you, but it was the premise. I should have stopped there, but I took it all the way through three verses and a couple different versions of a chorus, and they were all garbage. So,
Oh
but I
man.
don't know. I'm kind of like, I like the Hemingway idea that I can't remember. It might be in A Movable Feast, his book. Do you know Hemingway much?
No, I don't study it.
Okay, he has this book called A Movable Feast. That's like at the time there were all these American writers and Irish and British, but there's all these American writers living in Paris, and they're drinking and partying. And Hemingway wrote this book about it that's fucking amazing. But there's a part in there where he is forcing himself to write, and he knows that what he's writing is horrible, but he has to keep the muscle moving so that he can, when something good comes up, he can write it. And then I guess what he ended up writing was this book about that. And and I think it's my favorite Hemingway book, or maybe I think it's my favorite Hemingway book, but it's kind of about not being able to write anything, which is ironic.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it that way.
And
Man,
it's
could you
amazing seeing him talk about all these writers that, when you learn it the school way, they're like stuffy old dudes and Gertrude Stein and shit that, are just like little tiny pictures in a history book or an English book. And then you realize they're all just like drunk pieces of shit. And they're a lot more like you and your friends having terrible conversations at the bar in your 20s than the history books would like to present them as.
right.
But
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, that
So
guy had a
man,
rough
since
life.
it's your first time on the show, we gotta kind of start at the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
where you're from, how you grew up, how you got into music in the first place.
I'm from Texas, kind of moved around a lot, but mostly North and West Texas. And my papa, I got into music really, really early. I used to have seizures when I was a kid, and my first musical memory is my papa, my grandfather, bought me an Elvis CD from the hospital gift shop. I still have the CD actually. I just got it back recently. The exact one. Uh, it's like a shitty compilation called Love Songs, and it's like all Elvis love songs kind of across his career. Um, and that was like the first CD I remember being obsessed with. And then I was really into Elvis from like 5 to 7, 8 ish, and I would stand in the mirror and do the whole thing. I was obsessed. And James Taylor, my dad and he was really my mom and dad were really into James Taylor. So that greatest hits the White James Taylor album. I was into the not the songs I'm into now by James Taylor. I was really into the song Mexico. Oh, Mexico. Yeah. Yeah. And then somewhere in the seven-ish, six, seven, eight, I got Beatles. I got those blue and red cassettes that were like the two halves of their career greatest hits that are just mind-boggling. Um, and I was obsessed with the Beatles. And then all kind of in the mix there. My papa, I was half Catholic, half Southern Baptist family, so Catholic music sucks. Uh, but the Baptist church has Heavenly Highway Hymnal, which is just awesome songs all the way through. So my papa started teaching me guitar a little bit, like basic chords, and he kind of always had this. He grew up in far west or the Panhandle, so really far out there, but near Lubbock, the surrounding region. And so when he was in high school, Buddy Holly was coming out of Lubbock, Roy Orbison, eventually Waylon Jennings, but he was in Buddy Holly's band. But all this, Sonny James, do you know him? He's
Yeah.
the I Fought the Law guy. So my papa, his first job's driving a truck and stuff. He has this story about running into Buddy Holly on the elevator of the radio station in Lubbock. And those guys were all like, local celebrities. So he kind of always had, I think every boy that grew up there at that time, every old man you talk to from out there had some kind of dream of being a musician at the time. So he kind of had that, and he went into the military and missed Vietnam by like a few months. Um, but he always played guitar. And so, my and my dad's, all our memories of his father, he's still around, but all of our childhood memories of him are like my dad remembers him drinking beer and playing on the lawn all growing up. And then by the time I was born, he was done drinking beer. But my whole childhood was just him playing Ray Price, some Hank Williams, but he was way more into the crooner stuff, crooner country, like Farron Young, Ray Price. Ray Price is his favorite singer. He loves Merle, but a lot more of the early 60s croonery stuff.
Hmm.
So I grew up like hearing all those songs from him, and those were the first songs I learned were religious. And then I think he always kind of I have all these memories of him making comments about country music being for adults when I was a kid. He's like, "Why do you want to hear all this cheating and drinking and lying?" And he's like, but he was big. And then when I had like, the radio too, so I was into all the rock stuff, especially classic rock radio, but my dad was heavy into Soundgarden and Nirvana and Alice in Chains. That Alice in Chains Unplugged album is still like I probably listen to that as much as I listen to anything else now.
Really?
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I kind of got all that. And then I don't know if I was 8 or 9. My Nonna, my grandmother, gave me an old Fisher Price record player, the portable turntable. It's like red plastic. Anytime I talk to old people, they all know this exact Fisher Price record player that I had. And I got, I was all over different families' houses, and they all had their record collection. So my Nonna, this is the Italian side, they had her and all her sisters in Pittsburgh. They all had all their children, Italian family, tons of kids, sometimes spanning 2 decades. So all their records were around, and I would just go all over to all these people's houses all over the country with this little fucking portable record player. And so I got it's all I wanted to do. I didn't have video games when I was a kid. We didn't have a TV in our house. So I would go to my grandparents or my cousins or great aunts and watch MASH with them. That's all the TV I got was like old people TV, like Westerns with my papa, Gunsmoke every day, MASH with my uncle, the Golden Girls. But then I got all their
Golden
records.
Girls rule, man.
Golden Girls rules. MASH rules. MASH actually rules. But I just wanted to ask questions about the records and read the liner notes. And so I kind of got a lot of, and old people, like all my cousins, they didn't want to they wanted to play Halo and like Mario, whatever was going on at whatever year. And I was the nerd, and I would hear that. I would sit and listen to all these older people tell stories about, when I got into the Beatles and stuff, my nonna would tell me about the day Kennedy died, where she was, and so I had all these reference points really young of like Nixon and all the 20th century presidents that were in my grandparents and great aunt and uncle's lifetimes. And I was just obsessed with that stuff. I think when I was 9, my Christmas gift was a subscription to the Civil War Times, which was a magazine they used to publish about, they might still, about the Civil War. So like one cover would be Stonewall Jackson, and the next cover would be Sherman. And so I was really into history and reading, and really into a lot of older music. And I kind of had a frame of reference of like, I could still tell you, I was obsessed with memorizing track listings and sides and years and producers when I was a kid. So I
Damn.
know way too much about the Bay City Rollers and like Casey and the Sunshine Band. And I had uh my dad's cousin was really into Kiss when he was a kid, so I know all that stuff. But yeah, and then once the libraries, we moved to Dallas, like Irving, Texas, where the Cowboys used to play. And I was like a library kid. I just spent all the time in the library. And once the internet happened, I would go to the library and print out guitar tabs. So first there was a kid down the street from me who already played guitar. So I had to be the bass player. So I took the top 2 strings off my acoustic and learned like I could still play you like every AC/DC bass line ever. I learned all the bass tabs, and then somewhere 10, 11-ish, Nirvana happened for me, like every 10, 11,
Yeah.
12, 13-year-old boy. It was like Nirvana, Pantera, and then The Doors, Zeppelin, like the classic rock stuff. But I totally idolized Kurt Cobain, which probably explains some of what happened later. But yeah, so I got all that stuff, and I was playing guitar a lot, and I was like a library thief. I used to steal from the library constantly. I
Oh,
stole like every CD from the library. And when I was like 14 or 15, my house got raided, and the cops opened up my closet door, and there were just like piles of CDs from the library. And I had to, as part of my sentencing, I had to go give everything back and apologize to the library. And the librarian lady like loved me, and she was like, "Oh, you didn't have to take them." I was like, "You guys will only let us check out 10 things at a time." I got so much music education. I used to steal, the library got Spin magazine and Rolling Stone. So I stole those every month. I would wait like till the next month came, and then I would take the last issue.
just replay.
Um, so
Uh,
I was really into all that stuff, and already was like checked out on school. And then we moved to a different neighborhood when I was 7th grade, 6th grade. And then I got rap, and rap just opened everything up for me because, yeah, samples is what did it. I got into rap, and I knew all the samples from like a lot of them from all this old music. And I was like,
yeah.
cool, this is the new thing. And I got into smoking weed really early, and all the other drugs followed very quickly after for me. So then high school was just juvie, military school, moving schools, fucking skating. I was a big skater.
Yeah.
And then just doing drugs and stealing shit.
God.
So yeah, I just kind of tried to pack it all in there, but that's most of the story up to 17.
Well, we're laughing about it now, but I already know you're in a much better place. So,
Oh yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of the position that, you know, I made a lot of bad decisions. I had a lot of bad stuff happen to me when I was young that was not my fault, but I kind of used those things as an excuse for years. Once I was, if I kind of was making man choices when I was 13, 14, and if you're going to make man choices, you got to take man responsibilities. And I didn't want to do that. And so for years, I just blamed my parents, the man who abused me, all kinds of shit for all of my new decision making. And then I just hurt lots of people, and I was kind of like a wrecking ball till, 4 years ago. I just kind of fucked everybody over that I came into contact with, and just made tons of excuses for myself, and it just didn't get me anywhere. So I kind
Yeah.
of am of the opinion now that I went through all that stuff. I put a lot of stuff on myself. I hurt a lot of people, but through the 12-step programs and stuff, I kind of am of the opinion that somehow that gives me a story to tell that can help someone else that maybe is like where I was a few years ago. Um, maybe I should stop making excuses or resenting all these people or things around me. And, maybe they don't have to go through the last few years of using and drinking, where I was sober for 2 years back when I was touring with Lost Dog, and I relapsed secretly. By the time COVID happened, I just like totally went off the rails. And I think before that, before my late 20s, using and drinking were really fun. Sometimes there was a lot of darkness for sure, but I still enjoyed it. The drugs still worked. And then the last couple of years of using were just really dark. And uh, I just, what I might as well have been dead, like I was so fucking miserable and lost. And I'd had some rough times. I haven't done heroin in many years, but this last couple of years of using, there was no heroin involved, but thank God. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think when I was younger, I at least was living under the illusion that I liked drugs, that I was enjoying taking drugs and drinking. And then the last few years of it were just like I wanted to not do it, and I just could not stop. And I was, yeah, really dark, and I didn't lose all my money. I didn't lose everything in my life. I was dating my current wife then. And there had been other points where I was totally homeless and had no money and no friends. And it was way darker this time. Like, even though I still had all my shit,
Yeah.
um, it was just horrible. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just drank some coffee and I'm on Coke Zero now. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let it spew.
Hey, dope. I yeah, it's wild. Like I've never really got, into hard stuff, mainly because I've seen it a lot. Like I got a lot of family, friends, you lose loved ones, and I knew early on I was like, I cannot touch this shit.
Yeah, see, I saw all the people around me doing it, dying. But for some reason, I just, I'm an addict. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. And I am able to convince myself that I'm gonna be the superhero that can beat it. And when I was using and drinking, I could drink more than all of my friends for longer, and I could still, quote unquote, keep my shit together, which I didn't. I don't know why I thought that,
You
but
just thought you were,
it felt like it because I didn't piss myself or whatever. But yeah, I just had some delusion that I was different and I was just built for this shit, which is just an insane thing to think. But
yeah,
yeah, and then I got sober, and my my now wife and I were dating, and I just like, we were having a fight, and she, the next morning, she said, and I woke up with my face on the bed and my knees on the ground like this. And she was talking to me, and I had been smoking crack in the other room all night. Awesome move. Uh, and was just hammered. And I had been saying really nasty shit to her, and I didn't remember any of it, of course. And she, I guess while I'd been asleep, had found all of my crack paraphernalia. Um, and she knew I was doing coke and stuff, but she didn't really know the extent of it. She knew something was up. We had gone through a little breakup, and anyway, so she was talking to me, and she just talked about this. that my eyes turned black. And I've seen it happen to other people, but I didn't know that it happened to me. Apparently, a lot of times now that I've started making amends with people, they're like, "Oh yeah, it happened to me too." But yeah, my eyes just, I guess, turned black, and she didn't know who she was looking at. So we had these conversations, and I was like, all right, like I've been through the program before, I had worked the steps before, and it was the best year and a half of my life, 2 years of my life. Um, so I kind of knew what I needed to do. So I made a decision to get sober. 1 week later, she finds out she's pregnant. 1 week after that, I got re-indicted for an old case in Texas. So I'm first day at a new trucking company. I pull a box truck into the Air Force Base in Wyoming, and I have no idea I have a warrant out. I got a mistrial the first time I went to trial for this same case, which is still ongoing. But anyway, I went to trial, got a mistrial, but they can re-indict you till they got 3 chances to get a conviction, or not guilty. They have to get a verdict. So I didn't really understand how all that worked. I pull in with the guy who's training me, first day on the job, pull into the Air Force Base, give him my ID. We're in like a hangar. I'm
Hmm.
reading an article about Madonna's plastic surgery and going, wow, I'm going to have a kid. Like, this is crazy. Whatever is going through my mind.
Right.
2 weeks into sobriety. And they go, sir, will you step out into the hall with us? And it's military police with
Oh,
the rifles and everything. And they're like, you got a felony warrant out for your arrest. And I'm like, from where? They said it come from Oldham County, Texas. And I said, motherfucker. I knew exactly what it was. And, I'm like, how are they charging me again? So I get arrested. I go to jail in Cheyenne. And minute I get in there, it was the weekend of Frontier Days, which is like their big rodeo.
yeah.
Fucking headliner is Post Malone. So the minute I walk into the pod, they go, Post Malone, Post Malone. They're going, you gonna make it to your show tomorrow? so so that's rich. And then I had burned all the bondsmen in West Texas where I got arrested. So my wife had to pull, she's pregnant, going, I just found out I'm pregnant. What the fuck? He's gonna go to prison forever and not raise this baby. What the fuck am I gonna do? She convinced I had to get a bondsman in Texas to write the bond before they sent the marshals to come get me from Wyoming. Had some intense nights in that jail, just Bible in an AA book. Just got sober, and yeah, a lot of praying and a lot of thinking, and I was pretty scared to be a dad. But it kind of always like pointing like, yeah, you're supposed to be sober. Look at this. Look at what's going on here. Like,
Yeah.
you want to keep doing this shit for the rest of your fucking life? If you're even gonna have a life. And so she convinced some bail bondsman to bond me out. He sent the bond the day before the marshals were supposed to come get me and take me to Texas. And then she drove her pregnant ass up to Wyoming and picked me up. And yeah, I relapsed since then one time. But you know, progress, not perfection.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
if
and
you,
then once my daughter was born, it's just like a whole different world. We struggled a lot for the pregnancy. Alcohol and drugs are not my problem. They're like a symptom of my problems. My problem is that I'm a selfish, self-centered, arrogant, lying piece of shit. And alcohol and drugs are my way of not dealing with that stuff. And yeah, I had to still have to on a daily basis, like work on those things because honesty is hard for me. I've spent my entire life finding ways to not be honest, which is why I have no issue talking about any of this stuff. I love talking about it because it's like,
it's like a
it's
getting
not
it off.
romantic. It's not cool. It's not fun. It just is the way I've lived my life. And, you know, I don't know. It's a struggle. It's not as much a struggle now that I do it every day, but there's days that are harder than others. There's a lot of times where lying seems a lot easier than telling the truth, and there's a lot of times where, you know, my old habits want to come out. I still go into fucking people's houses and like my thief brain like clocks what's in their house. Like,
Oh no.
I used to just steal so much. And I was, I stopped doing it quite as much when I got a little older, but when I was a kid, I just fucking robbed everybody I came in contact with. I used to sleep with girls just so I could steal their MacBook. And
Like,
and I still like that part of my brain just like switches on sometimes, and I gotta be like, no, no, no. That's not who you are now. It's not, you don't need that. Like, you're not on the street. You have a daughter at home. You got bills that you're gonna pay. Like,
yeah,
that's yeah, it's really awesome. But gratitude is the thing that I had the hardest time with, was being grateful, and faith is hard, and I think faith is like the only way. And everyone has a different version. I don't necessarily think of God like this guy right here, this
yeah.
white fair skinned, like
Right.
James Franco Jesus, but
James.
I have my own perception of what God is, but I know he's real. He's in my life every day. Watch a baby come out and that'll blow your shit up. But yeah, sorry, I just went on a rant. I gotta chill. I'm drinking Death Wish coffee, so I hope they sponsor me to see how much it makes me talk.
So you were going through all that hard time. I don't even know how you were able to, like, maybe because you've done it, you were doing it so long, like how you were able to come up with music in the first place.
Well, I'll be honest, most of the music was not written while I was using heavily. It was like between every time I tried to get sober, like when I was sober in 2017, 18, I'd blown my whole life up. There was a period before that where I had stopped drinking for like off and on for 4 months. And then that time I wrote Carbon Creases, Dirty Now, bunch of songs. Then I started using again, not a lot of music. And then when I got sober again, I wrote Paper Ships and like a lot of those songs. A lot in that 2 years. And then when I relapsed in 2019, I don't think I wrote a single song for 3.5 years. So I write
Yeah.
a lot when I write, but now I'm writing all the time because I'm fucking sober. I think I finally figured it out. Like, the
Yeah.
key is just do this, just stay sober. But
You're
yeah, I was not I've never been productive when I'm using at all.
right.
I
Okay.
usually
That
stop
makes sense
playing
then.
music. I usually stop playing completely. I'm like, I hate music. Fuck the music industry, and I like make a bunch of excuses. When the reality is, no one in the music industry wants anything to do with you anymore because you showed up wasted or you called somebody a cocksucker or whatever. Like, that's always what it is. I always burn bridges and then blame the bridge. you
Birds,
know,
yeah.
like it was built poorly in the first place. You know.
Uh, Mosquito Ditch was my number one played song all last year on
Yeah.
my Spotify. It popped up. I was like, yeah, that's probably about right. I love that song.
Hell yeah, thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, I wish that they all sounded like that recorded. That's like the best recording I think I've ever done.
yeah.
But yeah, working on it. I'm putting out 4 projects this year. I've got one down, 3 to go. So
Damn. Okay.
hopefully one of those is almost as good as Mosquito. I can barely sing that song anymore. I have to sing it every night that I play, and my voice hates me for it. And so I just save it for the last song.
Yeah.
Uh, but my voice is not the same as when I wrote that or recorded it.
Right.
Crack will really do a number on your vocal cords.
I can imagine.
Yeah, not great for singing.
So what about short stories? You just recently dropped that. Uh,
Yeah.
how did that come? That wasn't even on my radar. And then I saw that you had it up and I was like, oh shit. I'm just looking at so much stuff all the time. I didn't even know it was coming out. And when you listen to it, the recordings are different. Like you
Yeah.
record, what's the backstory on that? You just kind of did it however and just collaged it all, or
Well, I have these other projects that all have kind of a theme that we're working on, that kind of have a similar sound for all of them. But then I had all these other songs that I wanted to record, and my buddy Ben Walgosk and I was touring, driving a semi, doing the dad thing, working a lot. So it was like, I don't know, over the course of three, I guess, when did we start it? We started the first like two sessions were in November, maybe for like a night each time. And then the other ones were just all randomly
yeah,
thrown
it's
in for
whatever
a
you could
few
fit.
months. So it was kind of everything that didn't fit on the other projects. And we just, Ben's fucking awesome guy and he's a nerd with recording stuff. And so we were in his basement, just like different mic for every song, kind of experimenting. Yeah, and it was, he has a lot of toys, and I get carried away with toys easily. And so does he, which was really fun. I had a blast doing it. And we were like, well, like I'm putting out a blues project that's like 6 songs, one acoustic, the rest are like straight electric blues, full band. That all kind of sounds the same. None of the songs on the album on short stories really fit in with those. Then there's one that I'm making at the end of the year that's like straight honky tonk. It's still me, but it's like, it's honky tonk about prison and like and drugs, but it's like a lot more, traditional country sounding. And there's one that's really like folky, cabiny sounding. And these ones we were like, fuck
Yeah.
it. Like they're all kind of different songs. I don't want to make them all sound the same. And he's just an incredible pedal steel player. So we just got weird. We just got really weird. We put like Glockenspiel on a song and uh yeah, it was, I think everything on there is me and him except for 2 keyboard parts that are just his neighbor. His neighbor was like, yeah, I'll throw some keyboards on it, but yeah, I don't know. It definitely sounds schizophrenic. I listened to it for the first time since we mixed it the other day, and I was like, yeah, this sounds a little all over the place, but whatever.
You know, I don't. It depends who you're talking to. There's times where I don't like a polished. You know, it gets too commercialized and feels kind of plastic.
Yeah.
So this kind of just gives it more of a raw feel.
Yeah, there's some people that have pulled. I definitely would like to make. I'd like to do something fully live. I think the Honky Tonk record, we're still like in the planning stages. Hopefully, it'll be done in August. We're gonna try and record the whole thing in 4 days, with like a session band. Um, I think it still sounds raw when people track everything live.
Yeah.
This the short stories thing is weird because it's just me and another dude doing all the overdubs. So it was pretty like there were a lot of things. It definitely sounds like that, but I think some people can really pull off making it sound raw still, but also
Hmm.
sound better in your headphones. But I don't know, Ben, you should have heard the way it sounded before he did his magic on it. It was fucking rough. There were a lot of, we did like 40 takes of some of the songs and like
Yeah.
they were pretty wild and he figured out how to make it work single take every time. But yeah, and I'm not the world's greatest guitar player. So there's some guitar playing on it I like heard the other day and I was like, "Oh, I wish I had fixed that." But whatever.
Yeah. I like Pawn Shop Hero.
Man,
That's a fucking banger right there.
I gotta
That
get
one
the
gets
live.
stuck in your head,
Yeah.
man. You walk around like, damn it, I'm singing this song again.
I gotta get the live version down because I do it, live, just acoustic, and it's the same song played the exact same way, but it's totally different. Like it has a totally different feel to it. I'm trying to shoot, I think Anthony from Gems and I are gonna shoot a video for it in a pawn shop in Nashville. So hopefully that'll be the version that gets captured. But Yeah, I had
Yeah.
fun with that glockenspiel. I was having a great time. It's a little toy children's one, and then the guitar part I was having fun with too. But all those spooky sounds he did on the pedal steel, that was like the second one we finished. And we were like, oh, we had so much fun that day. And we had my buddy Jason just chilling in the studio with us. And he was like, what the fuck? He'd never seen anyone record a song before. And he's like, what are you guys doing? And we were like, and Ben's just going with the pedal steel. It was awesome. So
That's another one I like on there. Rice and beans is fun. That's a
yeah,
I like
that
that
song
too.
I fucking wrote that song forever ago, like 7 years ago. And I tried to record it with Matt Heckler at one point. Uh he like was playing fiddle on it, and I was smoking a lot of weed at the time, so my timing was just totally off. And Matt and we were actually, do you know Dan Emery, Black Matter Anticorp?
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried recording it at in his garage, me and Matt Heckler, and I was just so stoned. I could not, like 3 different days we tried to record it, and I could not get the tempo right. And so Matt just gave up. He's like, I cannot do this. And so when we were recording the album, me and Ben were like, there needs to be like at least one sort of upbeat song.
At
These are
least
all such
one.
downers. Like, let's just make one decently up tempo song. And I was like, oh shit, I forgot about this song that I have. That
Yeah.
was a blast to record because we were just laying all the tracks. I think everything on there is me. I don't think he even plays steel on it, but it was just me and him like boom, bop, bop, boom, the end part. That was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Then Just Friends. That's a fucking that's well written.
Thank you.
Oh,
That
I think
is,
that's probably the home run on the whole thing, probably. If I
I think
if I
so
had to
too.
pick one
That was the
thing.
first one that I wrote after not writing anything for like the first one I finished, and it came out in like 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, that's it. I did it. But I fucking, dude, the opening line, I knew I stole it from somewhere. I was like, I wrote it in New York at my wife's family's house, and they live like in Long Island, like way out east, like the farm area of Long Island. So I'm like walking around on this beach, wrote it, and I kept going. The first line is, well, I just heard the news today, and I was like, I know I fucking stole this from something, could not figure it out. And I'm walking through the gross. I'm thinking maybe it's from Dylan, or I'll realize that I've stolen something from Bob Dylan or Neil Young or John Prine. And I'm walking through the grocery store and I hear Creed with Arms Wide Open. And it's, well, I just heard the news today. And I had to like struggle internally to keep it. I was like, no, I got to change the line, but I didn't. So now I have to get the giggle out before I play it. And then,
Dude, we were just talking about Creed the other day at work, blowing smoke and making jokes. Everyone heard that "What If" song.
is that the new one?
No, it's old, I guess. I don't know. I don't even remember. I just remember hearing it and I was like, "Holy shit, this song is actually good."
I know they're back together.
I had no idea.
They're playing shows again now. Like they sold out arenas.
What? That's fucking
Do you
wild.
like people forget how big they were for like 3 years?
Oh
They
yeah,
were
they
the
were like at the
biggest
top.
band on earth. They played the Super Bowl. Like they were so big. And like every white dude that like didn't go to church anymore but believed in Jesus and had like a barbed wire tattoo. All of my uncles basically were like they outgrew Corn and Slipknot because they had kids, and then
Yeah,
they
this
were
is
like
like the
while
dead
in
rock.
prison. Yeah, they got way into Creed, and Creed was like the leader, and then there was like Drowning Pool and like all the other Fuel rules. Also, Fuel, the band Fuel, listen to some Fuel and tell me they do not rule, dude. That
I'm
band
gonna have to
has
go
such good.
back. Fuel. I saw Fuel when I was in sixth grade. I have to go
They're
back.
so fucking good. That song Shimmer, you know that song
Yeah.
Shimmer? That song is. I wish that I could get away with covering it. It's so good. All that shimmers in this world. That song is fucking a great song. Yeah. Poor Fuel. They just got lumped in with all the
All the
others.
other, yeah, they didn't get
They
as
have
much
really good
shine.
songs. Yeah, fuck yeah. They have really good songs. Fuel has a couple bangers, but
Yeah.
I think
Hey,
the problem with all those bands is that none of like all the early 90s grunge bands are so tortured. Their singers are all like tortured artists
yeah,
that they
they
like
are.
are perceived that way, and they all died early. Even Chris Cornell, even though that was later, they all kind of get the pass because people are like, they really true artists. But Creed is just like an asshole. Fucking Scott Stapp is just like the worst. No one's like, that guy's a tortured artist. And so, like, they're never gonna, not that Creed is that good, but
No,
like Alice in Chains has some moments where you're like, this could have been perceived differently if fucking, Puddle of Mud made this song instead of Wayne Staley, who's the GOAT. But
hey, hold that thought. I'm about to piss.
back out of my garage.
Yeah, there was a. Do you know Vaden Landers?
I know of him, yeah.
Yeah,
We have a lot of mutual friends.
right. Well, his wife was telling me a hilarious story. They stayed over here one night after a show. She was working as a waitress at a diner, and she went to this table. The guy was there. You know, I don't know, small talk about something, and she's like, "Man, there's a lot of people in town, and are you?" Didn't recognize the guy and was like, "What are you in town for?" And he's like, "We're here for the Creed concert. Creed's playing." And she's like, "Oh, is that guy that's like, whoa, dear, yeah?" She starts mocking it, making this joke about it, and he was pissed about it because it was him. It's fucking. She went back and looked on her phone and it was like, "Oh shit," felt so bad.
Oh no.
And she shared that story online to the bunch of people, and everyone started tagging him in it. Please
Oh
forgive this
no.
girl for making fun of you to your face. And he liked it. Fucking classic.
That's hilarious. That's
Oh,
crazy. You know what though? I remember reading, it was, who knows? It was probably by a music journalist. It had to have been in like Rolling Stone or Spin or something, or a metal magazine. I just remember reading when they broke up, all the other members of that band started another band with the guitar player, fucking, I know his name from some reason, Mark Tremonti. They started a whole other band, and there was like an article. It might have been in like Guitar World, but there was an article that was just all the other guys in that band being like, "He's the fucking worst. We hate him." And then, and they like all told all these horrible stories about him. And then and then I remember a few years ago they got back together, and I was like, they had to have needed money so badly
yeah.
because the way they were talking in that article was just like, this guy is the worst human being of all
Oh
time.
my gosh.
I don't know. I feel like I've heard a million stories about how awful that dude is.
It's probably true. Who knows?
Probably.
It sounds
Although I
like
can't
if
imagine.
half of it's true, it's bad.
Yeah, but I can't imagine like becoming that famous either. They were got famous really fast, right? Like I swear they got famous and then got unfamous in like 4 years. They were like, nobody, biggest band in the world, everyone hates you. Like so fast. And I cannot imagine that's easy to deal with. Like, I
No,
mean, I've watched people on a very micro level of it. Like Ben had a really hard time becoming, known. I've seen yeah, Sierra had it seemed like she had a hard time and then figured it out, but I can't imagine it's easy to become that big, like the
yeah.
biggest, and then Yeah. I just read last year, I read Bono's book from U2. I
Hmm.
love U2 a lot. Uh, but Bono's kind of like the worst. His public image, at least, is like this fucking guy. Like, dude, why are you hanging out with the Pope wearing Versace sunglasses? Like, no one needs this. And then when they put the album on everyone's phones, and he wrote this book that's beautiful book about his life, but it's a lot of it's just about faith and like about his own struggles. And it really, like, it's been hard to be a U2 fan because anyone my age is like, fuck them.
I've
But they
never
made
liked them.
these, dude, their first, up until 1994, every album is damn near perfect. Like at least four of them are perfect albums. And they're really deep. Their lyrics are incredible. Like the guitar playing is crazy. They just jam. Like a lot of that shit is just really good. And somehow since the 90s, Vertigo, that and the iPod and the
Yeah.
fucking Force on You album and Bono, like, we're gonna save the world. Like they're it's like everyone in our generations hates them.
Right.
And hearing it from his perspective was so fucking interesting. Like, and the crazy thing, I can't think of another band like them that they were the biggest touring act in the world and they were the number one selling band in the world for years, for
Hmm.
several years. Most people don't even get like close to that for like 6 months. They did that for years and they're all still really close friends, the four of them. It's the same guys in the band. They're all still really close. They've been through all these things together. That's pretty crazy uh off the top. But then it, like, the hearing their side of it, or that they're like at least Bono's side of it, like the struggle of becoming famous. And then I kind of realized like he did all that fucking AIDS stuff because he felt like, hey, I have a responsibility, which is honorable. But I think in the book he really acknowledges too that like he kind of developed a Christ complex at some point, where he then, when you're doing all that stuff and you're that famous and you're on 60 Minutes talking to the Pope, like it gets to your head, and you let Apple talk you into forcing your album onto everybody's phone. And like that's just, I can't imagine being even a quarter as famous as that. Like Kanye, I always kind of have some empathy for Kanye because like what must it feel like to have not thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that believe that you're better than them, that say that you're better than them, that treat you like you're better than them, and you live in this weird bubble world with the Kardashians that where like nothing is real. You don't know how much milk costs. Like, I can't imagine that. And how much self-belief it takes to get there. You have to be arrogant and crazy to do those things,
Yeah.
to get that big, because Kanye is a real musician, like he's incredible as a musician. He's an interesting writer and he pushed the boundaries of his music constantly for years, not so much now. But I can't imagine like being in a room full of people. If I said to my friends, even one friend, or a room full of friends, Hitler is pretty fucking cool, I don't think that a single one of those people would be like, yeah, dude, you're onto something. Like, but to be that famous and have that much money and power that like the people who are around you go, you can get away with this and we're on board because we don't want to fucking screw our money up. That's gotta be such a fucking head warp. Like,
It's
I
insane.
just can't imagine. I'm sure I would not deal with it well at all. And especially like for people that get famous when they're young, even like under 30, like how much of a trip must that be? Like,
Yeah. You're still
of
trying to figure
course,
it out.
Justin Bieber was an asshole. Of course, Justin Bieber acted like a fucking asshole for, we all did that when we were that age. We just also didn't have cameras in our face and millions
Yeah.
of dollars. Like, what a nightmare.
Did you
Athletes
watch?
too. I see it with athletes too. And I'm like, poor guy. Like every time John Morant's in the news, I'm like, this poor fucking kid.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he thinks he's a gangster. Like
Did you watch that documentary Defiant Ones?
Oh yeah, the Dr. Dre, Jimmy
Yeah, all that.
Iovine.
But
Yeah, yeah.
it's got the big segment on the YouTube on there, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah, they're a really interesting band. And they did like everything you weren't supposed to do. Like in the 80s, they're really a lot of their music is about faith, which is crazy move for the band at the top of the world. And but it's also like loose enough that people can put other stuff into it. And like that song With or Without You is like about his marriage and about Christ. And like I bet you most people who know every word of that song have no idea about that, like,
Yeah.
but it's powerful to them in some way. And yeah, he did like when he put the book out 2 years ago, maybe he did an appearance on one of the late night shows that was just Bono with like a really sparse backing band. And they did that song With or Without You. And it was like, I got in the truck one morning at like 6 a.m. and it popped up on my phone. And I was like in tears crying, like, what the fuck, dude? Like, it's really beautiful. Like, and he kind of told this like little story about he and his wife walking on the beach. And I don't know. That band is really good, but I've kind of given up on convincing people because I'll always be on tour with someone and like, I'm going to convince you. U2 rules. But I would just advise anyone who hates U2 to go listen to the album War front to back. If you have to skip the two hits on it, skip them. Every fucking song on there is so heavy and good. Yeah, that band rules. But
I'll give it a shot.
War, it's got a little boy like this on it. It's fucking so good. And they were like in war-torn Ireland. Like that's where they came from, was like a civil war in Ireland in the late 70s and early 80s. And like a lot of their music's about that. And they had hits about that. Sunday Bloody Sunday is about that, which is crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of forget Bono with the red sunglasses. You got to like get that image out of your
Yeah.
mind.
I'm going back
And the edge with the
early
beanie.
90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll give them another shot. I'll let you know.
Yeah. They roll.
So you're letting out
Uh,
four, you said four projects this year?
yeah, hopefully it's at least three. Hopefully the fourth one will be
Okay.
done in time. But
And short
yeah,
stories doesn't count as one of the four?
that's one of the four.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah, that's the first of the four. So there's three
Gotcha.
more. And now it may be five. I don't know. Sean and I are working on something together. I just keep writing songs and then I have like a backlog of a lot of songs. Like on short stories, let's see. Um like 4 or 5 of the songs on short stories were written in the last year and a half, and the rest are all predate that by at least 3 years. But then I just keep fucking writing stuff and I'm like writing all the time and a lot of it's shit, but I have like 40, 36, 37 songs that are like, yeah, I need to like get these going. There probably 15 or 16 of those I need a lot more work on, but the rest of them I'm like, I gotta get done. So I'm
Right.
doing one that's like an electric blues project that's an EP, and then another one is an EP too. So it's like 7 songs and 6 songs on one. But then yeah, the other one is like honky tonk bangers about addiction. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
I keep
excited.
coming up with new
I can't
ideas.
wait to hear them.
Hell yeah, I'll send you some stuff.
Yeah, some leaks. I won't leak
Yeah.
it to the public.
You're not gonna leak it? I'll tell them it's AI.
Yeah, it's AI.
Have you seen this Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef that's happening?
No, I knew Drake was hitting some shit out about some people. I didn't know what. I didn't even
So
look into
Kendrick
it.
Lamar dissed Drake a few weeks ago on the number one song in the country. Then Drake's former producer Metro Boomin and Future made 2 diss albums where like half the songs on each album are disses, and they got like everyone to diss Drake. The Weeknd, ASAP Rocky, like every famous rapper is like, fuck Drake. A few days ago, Kanye had to jump in. Kanye's like, yeah, fuck you, Drake. But every time the songs come out, they're all getting leaked, except for the first Kendrick one. All the other songs, Drake's diss tracks back, they're all getting leaked before they're officially released, and people think it's AI. So now there's songs coming out that aren't getting officially released that seem like Drake put a song out and was like, I'm not sure if this is gonna work. So let me like put it out. And if it doesn't work, I'll just say it was AI.
Oh
So
my!
now
Everyone's
everyone
fucking
thinks
confused,
it's so confusing. And then Drake put out a diss track where he uses AI on his diss track. He uses AI to rap in the voice of Tupac, dissing Kendrick Lamar, and in the
holy
voice
shit,
of Snoop Dogg dissing Kendrick Lamar, and then it's him, and it's fucking nuts. It's the most futuristic.
dude!
It's what our whole world is going to be
Where's
like
music
pretty soon.
going? This is gonna be wild.
It's going to be crazy.
AI is
It already
so
is. I was like at the
scary.
gym the other day listening to all of them while I was running on a treadmill, and I kept having to like stop the treadmill and be like, what the fuck is this? Like the Tupac one blew my mind. I was like, he's being accused of using AI, so he's like, I'm gonna use AI my way now. It was crazy.
Did it sound like Tupac? Was it pretty
Oh
accurate?
yeah, but it sounds like Drake's flow, but in Tupac's voice. Because what they do is they rap it and then they feed it through an AI filter that's designed to sound like Tupac's voice. I'll send it to you. It's fucking nuts. And he's like, it's basically Drake rapping in Tupac's voice, but he's rapping as Tupac. So he's like, come on, Kendrick, why don't you say something? Like it's fucking nuts. It's it's so crazy. And then he uses Snoop Dogg's voice. And I'm like, Snoop Dogg's still alive. Crazy. Uh it's nuts. I can't even. But then there were some that came out that were definitely AI that weren't real diss tracks. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's confusing. But and then Rick Ross jumped in for some reason and he's calling Drake a white boy. And he's accusing Drake of having he says Drake got a BBL and a nose job. That's like the substance of the diss. He said Drake got a butt lift and a nose job so that he could look less black. It's so bizarre. It's so weird. It's a very confusing, it's the most confusing rap beef I've ever witnessed. And I kind of wish it was simple. Like, I don't know if you remember when the game and 50 Cent hated each other.
Yeah.
And the game was like, gee, you not fucking that era. I want it to be that simple again, or just like shoot somebody. Like, but none of these guys are gonna. Oh yeah, and J. Cole. J. Cole made one dissing both of them, and the next day he's on stage and he felt so bad about it, he apologized for dissing them, which has got to be the wackest shit any rapper ever did. And then he took the song off streaming services.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's not hard.
Yeah.
You're not hard if you're taking your diss tracks down and then
I
apologizing.
don't think that's the whole thing. J. Cole's whole thing is that he's not hard, that he's just like a good rapper and he's
That's true.
kind. So I kind of respected it on one level, like, okay. And he said
Yeah,
the
if it was a
media,
gangster rapper, like it'd be different.
yeah. He was like, the media got me all hyped up, but this is wrong. I love both of these guys. I shouldn't have got involved. But like, why even make the song? You just shouldn't have done it. Like, and even on the song, he's dissing Kendrick Lamar and he's like, your first album was a classic, but your second one sucked. It's so bad. It's like the weakest diss. Back in the day, they used to be like, you gay, like you wear dresses, like, or like I fucked your wife. And now they're like, you use AI and your second album's not as good as your first album. Like, what the fuck are we doing? So crazy.
Hey, you just gave me an idea though. I might start writing and doing AI songs and like
Dude,
since I
I'm
don't have a
sure
good
there's
voice,
like,
I'll just use my flow with Casper's voice.
you got to use Benjamin Todd AI.
Oh God.
Use Ben Todd AI. No, use Sierra Farrell AI. We all wish we could sound like her when we sing.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Write a
gosh.
song about donuts and make it in Sierra's voice.
That's awesome.
I can't wait till the George Jones AI comes out because I'm just gonna put every song I write into George Jones AI and then relearn how to sing it like that.
That would be amazing. I'll listen
Amazing.
to it, and I won't even care if it's AI.
Okay, so now I got 6 projects coming out this year.
Phew.
Casper does the possum does Casper. That's
There you
sick.
go. So when are you hitting the road? You're on and off the road a lot with touring.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it like short a lot so I can be with my daughter, but um this one come I'm in Portland and Seattle this weekend, but then first 2 weeks in May, the first week I'm on my own in Northern California, and then my wife and daughter are gonna fly out and be on the road with me for a week. And then I'm off till June 9th, I think. And then I'm going up to Montana and Wyoming for a few days doing some shows. And then there's some other stuff coming later in the summer that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. So,
Well, I'm sure it will all be posted via social media.
oh, yes, my wife is really good at making me post constantly. She's like, you got to do this. You got to post this. That picture's ugly. Don't post that picture. And then sometimes I go, I like that picture. I'm posting that picture. And then it fails and it gets, no likes. And she goes, I told you so. I fucking hate social media.
I hate it
I
too,
hate
but I have to
I
be on
hate
it.
it. Yeah, and you have to
You
learn how
have,
to
I
play the
mean,
game. It
it
sucks.
works.
It does work. That's the worst part of it. Like no one would know that I put out an album if I didn't post it on Instagram for fucking 3 months. And
Yeah.
even then, most people don't even fucking know I put out an album. It's like,
I didn't
damn
see
it.
it till like the day of. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I was like, just there's just so much shit out there going on.
I don't know. I'm hoping that I can put out these 4 projects this year and get enough leverage that I can get someone to take over the booking and the managing other than me and my wife, just because it's a nightmare doing it ourselves. But hopefully people will just listen to the fucking songs, like, and share them with their friends and go, hey, like, I get a lot of people at shows that are like have lost a loved one, or the other night I had a mom and dad whose son was a fan of my music and he overdosed and passed away, and they drove like 3 hours to come see me play. That's way better to me than like a bunch of people on blogs, like, or a magazine, like, posting shit. Like,
Yeah.
those people may not post it. I don't even know if they have Instagram, but they showed up and they had a conversation with me that like moved me and made me feel like, okay, like there's a point to me doing this. It's not, in vain. Yeah, and I get to be of service to them in a way, and they help me keep doing it, which is, I've noticed since I've, you know, started playing again this go around since September, October. Some shows are bigger than others, but I think like every show that I play, there's a couple people at least that are like, tell me that the songs, they have some kind of story or some deep experience with the songs, and that makes me feel like validated more
Right.
than selling out a venue. It's like, yeah, these people got some kind of meaning. This world is like really easy to feel alone, and the best music, the music I love the most is music that's made me feel less alone. Like, there's Neil Young records that came to me at a time in my life where I felt like no one understood what I was going through, or I didn't know how to put my feelings into words. And like, Towns is a big one for me with that stuff. Like,
Oh yeah. I had him
Towns
on today.
came, oh my God, he came to me he comes to me at multiple times throughout my life. Like, his songs, I won't listen to him all the time, but then there'll be weeks where like it's all I listen to. And like, it just makes me feel like I'm not going crazy. Like, yeah, these are, someone else has felt this way. And
Hmm.
yeah, and that's such a fucking beautiful thing. That's the best part of music to me, is that it's a communication. I think even like a lot of rap music, like it almost validates people's experience. Like a lot of music, I think music validates people's experience, even if it's as simple as like, yeah, there's some other motherfucker out there that's as horny as me. Like, like it's music lets, you know, gives voice to your feelings and your environment and your surroundings. Like Nas, when I first heard Nas, like the way that he sees his neighborhood on the first Nas record, Illmatic, is like it's powerful, and it's the news back then was like portraying Queens, New York as like a hellhole, and somehow he made beauty out of that hellhole, and a lot of hellish stuff. That song New York State of Mind, where he's like having these Scarface fantasies and he's sitting on the stairwell drinking E&J, like it takes you there and it makes it beautiful, the same way fucking Bruce Springsteen makes the shittiest place in New Jersey seem like a magical wonderland, like
Yeah.
the early Springsteen's like about a decaying beach town in Jersey that is, falling apart and no one's there in the winter, and he makes it like romantic and so interesting. And like, Towns does a totally different thing than that. Towns takes his mental health and his, struggles with addiction and real true feelings and emotions, and like explains them in a way that I hadn't thought of the same way sometimes, and sometimes I thought of exactly that way and I didn't know how to say it. Like, yeah, music rules.
It's very powerful.
It
I mean,
really
it's
is.
got, I mean, you know, I I'm obsessed. I mean, I wouldn't have I started this podcast and
I can tell.
yeah, I don't know. I started it during COVID because nothing else to do. And I was just like, I like music. Let's talk about it. Meet people and all that shit. So that's awesome,
Oh
dude.
yeah.
What else you got out there that we should know about?
Well, the Gems on
Lots of music,
VHS
touring.
podcast. I'm working on a podcast with Anthony from Gems. That I was gonna say when we were having the conversation about preachers earlier, I'm gonna try and convince Anthony to bankroll a trip to go see. Do you know about Bob Joyce?
Mm-mm.
Pastor Bob Joyce?
No.
Dog. If you want to go down a wormhole,
Oh God.
I think Elvis is alive, and a lot of other people think Elvis is alive, and they think he's this pastor named Bob Joyce.
Oh my God.
He lives in Arkansas. I think it's Elvis. He sounds exactly like Elvis. He's the same age. He looks like Elvis with minor plastic surgery. He is the man.
He's the
I'll
king.
send you some
He's
videos.
the king.
I think he's the king, but the theory is there's a lot of people that theorize it, and he won't deny it. He just goes, all them crazy people. He talks like Elvis. He goes, I don't know what them crazy people are talking about. Uh, and like someone tracked him down and like videoed him. They knocked on his door and they're like, sir, like, do you know that people think you're Elvis or whatever? He's like, oh, people are crazy. Like, he won't deny it. But he, the theory is that Elvis was so lonely and his life was so fucked up that he
Right.
just said, fuck this, I'm leaving it all behind to serve the Lord. And he changed his nose and like minorly altered his jawline or something. It's barely different. He looks like fucking Elvis. Uh, and he's opened a church in Arkansas, gave away all his riches, and he's now a pastor named Bob Joyce.
Does he
He's the
sing
man.
at this church?
Yes, he does, and it's fucking incredible.
Hold
It's
on.
like
I'm
it's
writing
Elvis,
this down.
dude. Please hold on. Look up "How Great Thou Art," Bob Joyce, and
Bob
tell me it's
Joyce.
not Elvis. I got into the whole conspiracy before I heard him sing, and then I fucking heard him sing, and I was sold. I'm like, yes, it's him. I'm convinced.
Oh shit.
It's
Uh,
so good.
I'm definitely looking that up.
I'm
I
gonna
think
try
he's
and
dead.
convince
I'll just
Anthony
put
to
it out there on the
bankroll.
record. I think the man's dead. We'll see if you can change my mind on this.
I'm undecided today. Some days I'm convinced, some days I'm not. But
Holy
I want
shit.
to find the Tupac preacher though. I bet Tupac became like a preacher too. I want to find that one.
That'd be
But yeah,
another.
Anthony and I are working on a podcast where we go through the history of certain songs or certain musical movements. Like the first episode that we're working on, it's been a pain in the ass, but you know the song Last Kiss, like Pearl Jam Last
Yeah.
Kiss. So it's a cover of a cover of a cover. And then there's the recent Post Malone cover. But the melody of the original song, the melody comes from a German folk song about eating dogs, cooking and eating dogs. And there's a crazy story. There's a bunch of deaths involved in the different covers, like people in the bands and the girl in real life who it supposedly was based on, who actually didn't die till 2 years after the song was recorded for the first time. And the guy who wrote it claims that he wrote it about these two girls because it didn't become a hit for like 7 years or 6 years after he wrote it. But there's a theory that he drove his mistress off of a fucking the side of the road and killed her the same way the song describes 2 years after he wrote the song, because the girls he talks about, the girl and her boyfriend that died, the way that this he claims the song was about it, they didn't die till 2 years after the song's written. So there's all these crazy theories through it.
That's
So
just
we're
one
gonna
episode,
that's the first episode.
but every episode is going to be like what? Just
I
crazy things.
think the first season we're gonna try and do all like here's the origins of a song. Like there's a lot of Bob Dylan songs that are the melody comes from a Appalachian folk song that comes from an Irish folk song that comes from, so it's called broken string theory. So we're gonna try and trace the roots of stuff. And
Oh,
then we
this
have
is
some ideas for, a lot of blues musician history from those early 20s and 30s blues guys is like nonsense. Like Alan Lomax wrote a book called The Place Where Blues Began, and it's just like lies. Like he just filled
really,
in the blanks, like the Robert Johnson story that we all know,
yeah,
sold his soul to the devil. Some of the details, there's another guy named Tommy Johnson
yeah.
who is the same time, sounds somewhat similar, and some of the folk and died early too. And some of the folklore between the two of them has been confused with each other. Like they're
Okay,
now,
yeah.
and so we're going to try and do an episode on that where we try to figure out, it's pretty hard, try to figure out what is real and what is fiction. And yeah, and a lot of those guys are on the ones who lived and told the story, like Son House. They changed their story like every interview that they did. They're like, I knew him, he was garbage. He couldn't play a guitar to save his life. And then another one, they're like, he sold his soul to the devil. He played so good. Like, and so we're gonna try and do some blues stuff. There's like a lot of misinformation that's commonly accepted as fact about Blind Lemon Jefferson and Bessie
Dude,
Smith. We're
it'd be
gonna
cool if you said podcast, so most of it's audio, but it'd be cool if you could kind of showcase your journey, travel around, figuring these things out, like a
I think we're gonna try
documentary
and do
series.
some trips. The first season we're trying to keep mostly to audio stuff because we're gonna build a Patreon out of it and try to fund some of these trips. We want to go down to Blind Lemon Jefferson. He's from Texas.
Right,
His
yeah.
grave is in an unmarked grave outside of Waco. That's still unmarked to this day, and some people believe it's not even where he's actually buried. So we want to go down there and we want to go down to the Delta and do some stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try and convince Anthony to go see if Elvis is really alive with
Do
me.
it. You got to
It's
film
a
that
hard
one.
sell. Yeah,
I
but yeah,
visited
we're still
Robert Johnson's grave.
yeah.
And
And that one I think there's some debate too over.
yeah, they don't know exactly which one. We went to the
Yeah,
one that we thought was most likely. It looked
it got
flooded.
flooded, right? And the they know that for sure it was in one of these spots, but it got flooded and they got reburied or something, right?
I don't know how it worked out, but no one
I
could
think
give us
that's
a
it.
definite answer, and we just went to one that seemed like most
Yeah.
likely.
I
But it
used to
was
be
the
a big
most
grave
eerie
visitor.
fucking feeling I ever felt at a graveyard
Really.
because it
The
was in the middle.
power, it's hard to tell too with that stuff if it's the power of spirits or if it's the power of myth. And most of those places where all that stuff went down is like built on Indian burial grounds and a bunch of slaves were buried there. So it's already heavy. Like
Yeah,
you're already
yeah,
like, what the fuck, dude? Like New Orleans. New Orleans is built on, New Orleans was the center of the slave trade and it was built on Indian graves. So like, and there's 24-hour drinking and gambling. I don't know. I lived there for some years and it was a nightmare. And if you live in New Orleans for even 6 months, you'll like start to believe in spirits and like, you know, that stuff's real. I think that
yeah,
stuff's real. Even if maybe we make it real because we give it power, it's still real,
yeah. My parents
but
lived down there for a little while, off
it's
Pontchartrain,
weird. Oh
and
yeah.
I'd visit a lot, and I'd still go down there and alligator hunt, but it's been a minute.
There's some parts of Louisiana that really feel, and Alabama, Mississippi that really feel like you're in deliverance. Like you're a couple decisions away from deliverance.
Absolutely.
I just read the book of Deliverance, actually. Have you ever read the book?
No.
It's so much gnarlier than the movie. It's so much worse.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
even worse than the
I
movie.
didn't know there was a book of it.
It's based on it's crazy. The book came out the year before, and they were like, we're gonna make a movie of this, and they just
That
pumped it
quick.
out. Yeah, and I didn't realize that all of them were failures when that movie came out. Burt Reynolds wasn't a star yet. John Voight was a failed Oscar winner. He hadn't had a hit movie since his first movie. And what's the other cat's name? The one who gets, uh, I can't remember his name. He was a failure too. And then they all became stars because of that movie, which is, I don't know. Learned a lot about the movie after reading the book. I was like, I have to watch the movie again. And it
Right.
still disturbs me. Like I saw it when I was a kid and it disturbed the shit out of me. It still disturbs me. I don't know how. I thought I would be desensitized.
No, I mean it's extremely disturbing.
It's so disturbing. And
Jesus.
I had all the feelings again that I had when I was a kid. Like when they go to the sheriff and he's like, Sheriff, like they're in there, and the local guy's like, don't listen to this bitch, like whatever. I was getting angry at the sheriff like I did when I was whatever, 8 years old.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like they're in there. They're gonna get bad stuff's happening. You gotta save them. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I am gonna go. I think my wife's about to be home.
Yeah. No. Well, thanks for chatting with me, man.
Man, thanks for
Yeah, send me
talking.
some stuff.
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff. I think I'll have some mixes of a couple things in the next week or so while I'm in California. And then I think Sean and I are gonna try and knock out a whole EP in a day. I think we're gonna just do it super basic guitar vocal with some live track and that should be quick. So that'll be done in the next month or so. And then I've been recording every show from like the mixing board. So I may put out a live thing too.
Hey, you
Just put
never
out
know.
too much. I'm like mixtape era Lil Wayne. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah,
New music all
you
the
gotta get to
time.
the Midwest though. You gotta get to Indiana. I want to see a show.
Yeah, I'm working on the fall. I want to do Fort Wayne and Indianapolis. Yeah, I'm working on booking a bunch of stuff right now. So hopefully I make it out there sooner than later.
All right, man. Good deal.
Oh yeah. Talk to you later, man.
All right. Later.